A written response. There are 2 written responses on the diploma. There will always be 2. It will be out of 7 marks each, so 14 marks. The written response is worth 25% of your test. So each mark you don't get on the written response is more than 1% of your test. Keep that in your brains. Okay? Now, the written response will move between at minimum, 2 units, correct? So if you think, man, I'm doing sinusoidal for this whole thing, that's weird. It is weird and wrong is what it is. You have to move through at least 2 units, right? Could be probability in perms and coms. It could be exponential polynomials, right? It could be whatever, but it has to be at least 2. Sometimes it's 3. Okay? The first bullet of every written response is worth 1 mark. It's usually easier. Okay? Then the next 3 are worth 2, 2, and 2, which totals 7. Okay? Then the next question, the first one is worth 1, then 2, 2, 2. 7. So it's a total of 14 marks. Okay? So let's look at this first one. The English Channel is a body of water that separates English. Yep. Okay, not good at English. That's what I am. England and France. And each year swimmers from around the world attempt to swim across it. In preparation for her solo swim, Leah has researched the predicted tide for the particular day that she plans to swim. The predicted heights of the tide in meters as a function of the number of hours after midnight are shown in the graph below. So this is a whole bunch of coordinates, yes? Coordinates can be shown as coordinates. Coordinates can be shown in a table, correct? Either way, you can use coordinates and get a regression. We agree? Unless you're Harvard. You don't agree. Did you forget when Friday started? No. All right. So did everyone type it in to their calculators? Yes? Okay. So when we type it in, it says for number 1, state the sinusoidal regression. The cool thing about stating is you just have to give an answer. If it says algebraically, everyone paying attention? If it says algebraically, you have to do it with algebra. If it says determine, everyone paying attention, looking here, if the word determine comes up, that means you have to give an answer, but also information that supports that answer. So it could be algebra. It could be a sentence that explains it. 2 sentences. It could be a graph. There's options when it says determine. But you have to have supporting evidence. So if you say determine, if it says determine and you say 5 meters, did you determine it? No, you stated something, correct? Totally different guiding words. Okay? This one says state. State means give me an answer. These are the easiest, and the reason why it's state is because it is bullet 1, correct? Bullet 1 is only worth 1 mark. State the sinusoidal regression function that represents the graph above in the form y equals a sine bx minus 2.4, where y represents the height of the tide in meters after midnight. If necessary, round values to the nearest hundredth. Hundreds have how many zeros? 2. So how many decimal places do they want this to? 2. Same amount of zeros in the word, right? So tenth has 1 0, 1 decimal place. Hundredth has 2 zeros, 2 decimal place. Thousandth has 3 zeros, 3 decimal place. Okay? So what do we get here? Y equals 2.55 sine 0.49x minus 2.14 plus 4.05. Now, where are we going to lose marks? Everyone paying attention? People do this. A equals 2.55. B equals 0.49. D equals 4.05. Why would I lose marks if this was just my answer? It tells me to state the sinusoidal regression function. Yeah? Is that stating it? No. The other place where people make errors, and this is going to be 97% of you, so everyone please pay attention. When they ask for an equation, people will just give me this. This is correct. If I box it, they'll give me this. Actually, they don't give me an equal sign. That's over-exaggerating. Got a little bracket happy there. Okay. I don't know why. Sure. That bracket shouldn't be there. What's the problem here besides the fact that I got some extra brackets? That's not a problem. It's just stupid. There's no y equals. That's not an equation or a function if you don't have y equals. Do you know how many of you don't write y equals? I'd say at least 50% on a good day. You will lose marks because that's not an equation. You'll get 0.5 out of 1. You immediately get 50%. This is supposed to be a full mark question, right? We all want to get that 1 out of 1. Okay, next question. Leah must start her solo swim at a falling tide of 5 meters in height. So is that x or y? So y equals 5 meters. Calculate the fewest number of hours after midnight when Leah should start her swim to the nearest hundredth of an hour. Mark and label this point on the graph. Okay, so here it says calculate the fewest number of hours after midnight when Leah should start her swim. Now this is the catch. The falling tide needs to be 5 meters. So do we want it lower than 5 meters or on its way up past 5 meters? Do we want her to die or do we want her to live? We want her to live. So do we want it to be less than 5 meters or higher? The tide. I know we live in Alberta. She's a good person. We really love her. Less. We do not want her extremely high tide, right? We want it lower. We don't want to kill poor Leah. Leah must start her solo swim at a falling tide of 5 meters. Okay, so let's go up here. Here's 5 meters. What is this? It's a rising tide. Do we want to pick that one? No. We want something in 5. How do we get that? Y2 equals 5, and then find that intersection. Right? Second trace 5, enter, enter, enter. Not the first one, but the second one. What do we get? 9 point pardon? Now it should make sense. At the very least, it should fall between 7.45 and 10.6, right? So then back here it says, calculate the fewest number of hours after midnight when Leah should start her swim to the nearest hundredth of an hour. Mark and label this point. So I marked and labeled it, but did I do anything else? No, so I probably get a 1 at this point. Because I marked and labeled it, but I didn't actually write a sentence or anything, right? So calculate the fewest number. So the fewest number of hours after midnight, bless you, when Leah should start her swim is, what was it again? 9.3. Right? So is that question ridiculously hard by any means? No, we're just wrapping our head around it. So the first question was sinusoidal. The second question was what unit? Did I leave that unit? Was it still sinusoidal? Was it still the equation? I was solving it out, put it into y2, still kept my sinusoidal, found where it was? Yep, so we're still sinusoidal. So at some point here, it might be D when I change to a different unit. It could be C. We could change to 2 units. We could change to 3 different units, right? So far, we've not. We're still sinusoidal, sinusoidal. Make sense? Flip over. That does not look sinusoidal anymore. What unit? What unit are these equations from? What kind of equation is that, though? It's not a logarithmic. It's a exponential. What do we know? Let's discuss exponential equations before we even touch this question. Y equals a b to the x is the form, correct? This is my what? This is my final. This is my initial, aka y-intercept. That's what I start with, right? Okay. What happens with B? Yeah. What happens with B? If B is 1, it's not exponential. That's 100%. That just means we're staying the same, correct? If this class stayed at 100%, B would be 1. Yeah. Yeah, rate of increase or rate of decrease. So if B is between 0 and 1, what is it doing? Is the graph increasing or decreasing? It's decreasing. If B is greater than 1, what is it doing? Guys? It's increasing. And it's how far away from 1 it is. We agree? So for example, if I had had y equals 7, 0.98 to the x, I would know that I would start at 7 and I would decrease by how much percent? Not 98%, which is an answer they're going to give you. 2. It's how far away from 1 it is, correct? Initial value of 7, what if I did this? Now what's it doing? Increasing by what? 2%. Your summer's like, I remember nothing. I would come on the Sundays if I were you, and also start studying options. Because the information's not going to just pop back into your head because you did it before. Okay? All right, let's listen to the question. Data for the number of male and female solo swimmers crossing the English Channel were collected and recorded annually from 1954 to 2016. Yes? So, the number of male solo swimmers, M. So this represents male solo swimmers. Male solo swimmers means they're swimming by themselves. It's not like it's a race where you like a relay or something. Male solo swimmers, M. And the number of female solo swimmers, F, are modeled by the exponential functions. Oopsies, I hit something by accident with my thumb. It's because I hit this thing. Modeled by the exponential functions shown below, where x represents the number of years after 1954. That's very important. Okay, this question is often done terribly. It says, using the numerical values in the function above. A lot of people will solve it. They'll be like, x equals 7 and x equals 22. Did it say solve here? What does a numerical value mean? It's a fancy way of saying a what? A number. The numbers above. Using the numbers above. So we're using the 6 and this, and we're using the 4 and this. Those numbers. So we're going to talk about them. So using the numerical function, values in the function above, compare the information these values provide about the number of male solo swimmers and the number of female solo swimmers. We're comparing the numerical values. Yes? So, we can go, the number 6, what does it represent? The number 6 represents the number of male solo swimmers when? When is it? Look closer. (1954). Now we're comparing, correct? So the number 6 represents the number of male solo swimmers in 1954. The number 4 represents what? And you have to put in 1954. You can't say the number of male solo swimmers because it doesn't represent the male solo swimmers. It represents male solo swimmers in 1954. It represents the female solo swimmers in 1954. Like, it's very important that you put that because that's the initial time. Now we just stated information. Have we compared these values? You can say these values are different because we're doing similarities and differences, right? These values are different. How? There are what? Yeah. There are 2 more male solo swimmers in 1954. So there was differences. We've already stated some differences. What other values do we have here? It's increasing faster, so yeah. But what we've talked about those numerical values, right? The 1.038 represents what? Not 38. A 3.8% increase since the value is greater than 1, right? You have to state that since the value is greater than 1, they're increasing, right? Then the next one is 1.047. Represents a 3% increase since the value is greater than 1 of male solo swimmers. Come on, Lepp. And the other one is 1.047. Represents a 4.7% increase since the value is greater than 0 or 1. There will be explaining questions. There will be comparing questions. It means you have to write sentences. It's not just doing math. Then you have to state similarities and differences. I just explained the values, correct? Now I have to state similarities. Both of these are doing what? Yeah. Both male and female solo swimmers are increasing. But female solo swimmers are increasing by 0.09% more each year. There will be an explain, which means you have to write sentences. There will be a compare, something like that. There's always an explain or a compare, always, at least one. Could be an explain and a compare. Do you see how there's no actual mathematics really done here? Like the math is subtracting 1 and times by 100, right? Like nothing crazy. Okay, then here it says algebraically determined. So can I just go to my calculator and poof out an answer? If you do, at maximum they'll give you 0.5 out of 2. At minimum, they often give 0 out of 2 because you didn't algebraically do diddly squat. Okay? So algebraically determine the year in which the number of female solo swimmers across the English Channel will be 180. So the female solo swimmer formula is F equals 4, 1.047 to the X. I believe that's it, right? Now, does that go in for X or does that go in for F? F, because it's female solo swimmers, correct? Not the year 180 years after 1954 or something, right? So we're going to put in the 180 equals 4, bracket 1.047. Now, can I go to my calculator in the end and type in my log that I do? Yes. But you have to show the algebraic work to do it, right? So what do we always do first after this? Divide the initial to the final. If I have initial and I have final, I divide it over, correct? So I divide by 4. So I get 45 equals 1.047 to the x. Then what do? Can I y1, y2 and find out where they intersect right now? I could do that and get an answer and see if my answer is right. I could absolutely do that to check my answer, but that is not what I want to do algebraically. What would be my next thing? Log. Remember that variable stuck in the exponent there's only one, you log. So the base of my exponent becomes the base of my log. So log 1.047. Then what goes beside it? Yeah, 45, because what's friend doesn't say friends, and it always equals the exponent. That's why we convert to a log, to get that exponent to come down. Now can I type that into my calculator? Yes. They don't expect you to do that in your head. That would be crazy. So I get 83 years. What year would that be? How do I figure out the year? 1954 plus 83. Then I box it and I move on. Wait, this is a written response. Mrs. Lepp, you have to remember we die inside if you boxed it and moved on. What would you have to do? Sentence. So, the year. Remember, this is where we can do really amazing things because we just rewrite what's up there. The year in which the number, this is not the time to save pencil, of female solo swimmers to cross the English Channel will reach 180 is 2037. Now the last thing I want to remind you about is if I give you a word problem for sinusoidal, remember you can come up with coordinates, correct? As long as you make coordinates on a Ferris wheel, you can plug those coordinates in and it can give you a sinusoidal regression. We agree? So if I had like 0 and 3 and then like whatever, I could plug them in and get a regression. We agree? One full rotation of a Ferris wheel. What would that represent? What word? One full rotation. What of a graph? Write these down. The period. The amplitude is the radius. And the midline is the center of the circle. If you're here on Sunday, I'll make sure to go through one of these as well. So the sinusoidal questions you guys have, that booklet, I'm going to post the answer key to it. So you go through the booklet I gave you yesterday and make sure that's a study thing.